Hello and welcome to episode 188 of the Board Game BBQ podcast. It's the Australian board gaming podcast that's bigger than a Marvel Zombiecide second wave shipping. That's right, we are huge. My name's Dan, I'll be your host for tonight, but I'm joined by two of the best co-hosts a guy could ask for, and a special guest host as well. But first we'll start with my brother down here in Melbourne, Jules. How are you, my friend?
Wow, I'm really good. That was a beautiful introduction. I appreciate that.
And my brother up in Brisbane, Adrian.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Very, very well, mate. And our special guest host for tonight, you may know him from his work on such games as Pipeline, Escape Plan, Black Angel, the upcoming Voidfall, Paradox Initiative, Pompero. I don't know if there's anything else I've missed. I'm probably sure there is.
100 other ones.
Ian O'Toole, friend of the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Really good.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We kept the seat warm from last time you were on. So. Oh, that's right. I meant to have a look at what your oath was last time you were on. I'll try and do it during the show so we can. Make
I'll try to remember.
Yeah. I see the panic in Ian's eyes already. He's like, "What? Oh no, they remembered."
White. All right, so let's go around the grounds. It's been a while since I've been on, and I must apologise up front because I was over in Perth. I was actually in Ian's neck of the woods earlier this week, and when I landed back in Melbourne on Thursday night, my ears haven't popped yet. Has that has it ever happened to you guys?
No, it must be an old man thing.
Oh yeah, exactly. That didn't take long.
Oh, you got him.
We're barely 2 minutes into the podcast. I've already too long. I need one of those horns where I can put in my ear and go, "Hey, what did he say?"
Oh dear.
I don't know. I've never had a problem because they call it. Do they call it equalizing? Equalizing. Because I've done it for diving and stuff, and if you can't equalize, then you can't do diving, like scuba diving, or you struggle maybe to do it because you have to equalize as you go down. So on the planes, like I've never had a problem with that. It's always just happened like on its own. Don't know how.
I was really struggling. It almost turned into like a migraine as it was coming down, and then the migraine subsided, and everyone just sounds like what is it, like Charlie Brown when you have the teachers talking? It's going That's what it sounded like for a couple of days.
So have they popped? Or is it just a gradual?
I don't think they have properly. No, it still feels like they're blocked. But I've been coming with a bit of a head cold anyway. So
yeah,
I think you have to like open your jaw.
Yeah, there's a jaw. Sometimes a hot shower can sort of clear it as well. It's almost like it feels like this. But enough about my problems. Let's talk about the board game. Well, just on the I mentioned at the top of the show the Marvel Zombiecide second wave exclusive shipping is. I know you had some thoughts, Adrian.
I have some thoughts. I think it's crazy. That's honestly my thought. I just think.
Are you a backer?
No way. Because unfortunately, like, not that I have backed Zombicide games. Like, don't get me wrong. I backed Night of the Living Dead. I love Night of the Living Dead. I had it as a kid on video and just wore it out watching that film.
That's the only one that I have.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
It's a great film. That was my introduction to zombie films, and I went from that to like Dawn of the Dead and other films after that. But I actually really liked Night of the Living Dead. I actually sizzled it, and me and Finn have actually played it as well on like a sort of lighter rules-based version of the same thing. It's really, really good. Really enjoyed it. It's a much slower paced game. It's sort of scenario-based, and it follows the film through the film kind of thing. I really liked it. But I just think that, like, this might sound harsh, but I find that CMON they're not innovating for me. Like, I looked at that Marvel game and I wanted something that just blew me out of the water, and it just didn't. So therefore I didn't back it. And I was expecting something a bit different, and it seems like a very similar game, but of just a reskin with an extra power and stuff in it. But I could be wrong. I don't have enough, I haven't looked at every element of the campaign, but it's just a lot of money. When I look at companies, say like Chip Theory Games, where you can back their games and pay $50 and you can just add as much as you want.
Yeah.
And that must be a bit of is that called a lost leader in business, where you might lose a bit of money on that shipping?
That's what they're doing.
Gaining a customer for life, aren't you, really? So I think that when CMON do things like this, when they're making like $9.5 million US, I think the Kickstarter was for the Marvel Zombiecide. It was up there.
Do you think were they caught off guard, because they would have had estimates on what the shipping was going to be, and then suddenly everything all the prices jumped up, or because I know I've read some things online where people were saying, it's deceitful, and it's like I don't know whether they were actively deceitful, but also it wasn't that long ago.
No. Yeah, I was going to say, when was the campaign?
It was only maybe 3 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 3 months ago.
It was certainly this year.
Yeah,
and the shipping has doubled from what people were expecting, or more.
Yeah.
Even just by buying even just the base game, the shipping for the base game is almost as much as what the base game was.
Wow.
And that's for US. It was like $50. It was $60 US and $50 shipping.
Wow.
And that's crazy. That was already announced this week, or something like that. It's like, what?
I look at Simon Games. They've been around for a long time. I would assume, have a much better fulfillment structure than someone like Chip Theory, they have been around for a while, but they are a newer company that don't have as big of a market. They're not doing $9 million Kickstarters. I think they're doing like 2.5 or whatever. Like, I think that Simon Games would have the infrastructure to try and help deal with something like this, to turn around to the backers who've paid all that money and say, really sorry, but the shipping's $400. I would not be happy with that at all. So, but that's me. Like,
yeah. Oh, I feel sorry for those backers. That's all I can say.
But what do you do? Because I don't know the ins and outs of it. If you cancel, do you lose it, or do you get a refund?
No, you can usually get a refund. It's usually you usually sacrifice around about 15 to 20%. I think is kind of a standard, terms and conditions thing. So I'm not sure if that's the case with Simon's.
On a $900 all-in US pledge, that's a decent amount of coin, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So, but it's it was just. There's obviously a lot of chatter about it because I've seen it in several groups, and I've seen it on Reddit as well as a few Reddit posts talking about it, and it's a lot of people have said that's it. I'm not doing any more after this.
Have they come out? I had a quick look around this afternoon. Have they come out with some sort of statement addressing it, or is it all just chatter on the forums at the moment?
I haven't. I've just seen chatter
and address it somehow.
So did backers just get it as okay, we're ready for you to pay us for shipping now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Here's how much.
As if it was just a standard, like a normal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's coming via magic carpet, so that's why you're paying so much.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but it just blew me away a little bit, and it concerns me about other companies doing similar things and other publishers potentially turning around and saying, "Oh, this game that you've bought, it cost you $250. We said it was going to be $80 shipping, but now it's going to be $210." And it would just be like, then how? What? I just don't want it anymore. I'm out. Like, just give me my money back.
Yeah,
because I do think at the end of the day, most people who spent that much money on the Kickstarter will probably groan and moan about it, but they'll probably pay it.
Yeah, they'll bite the bullet. A lot of them.
I think. I wonder if that's will set a little bit of a precedence.
Absolutely.
Maybe. I do think that there will be a time in the not so near future when we look back on, these days of gargantuan Kickstarters where people are receiving boxes that are as high as them, and it'll seem like the craziest thing in the world. I think.
I
looking
agree with
back
you.
on it'll be like, do you remember the time when
we got metric tons of plastic shipped to our door?
Yeah, unbelievable.
I'm pretty sure I saw like I think I might have seen a Perseverance pledge where someone backed like 40 copies, like as a group buy or something.
And there was pallet.
There was like the postman had dropped them off and laid them against their house wall, and it was as high as the house wall and like a meter wide, like this column of game. Like
poor postie,
along with a resignation note from the postman.
You'd be given that post this time of beer for Christmas, wouldn't you? Surely.
I can't remember if it was Perseverance, but I know it was like one of those big box Kickstarters that just recently fulfilled, because I saw a bunch of pictures and I was like, wow, that is a lot of games.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, how did Chip Theory do it?
When you order a pallet?
Well, my theory is my Chip theory is, how did they do it? How do they do that? They must do it at a loss, right?
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
a gesture to try and get people to, and they are a really good sort of forward-thinking company like that. They have good admiration for those guys. They do a lot for, people who are down on their luck and can't afford the pledges, and people will nominate people for the pledges, and they'll give them copies for free and stuff like that. That's really cool. Like, good for them for sure.
It's funny, I was just thinking, because on the opposite end of the scale, I've been guilty of doing it for Button Shy, because I'll buy the small but sort of button shy wallet games, and the shipping for that can be almost as much as what the games are. But I feel like if I'm paying like $35 for 2 button shy games, then $30 shipping as well to get it over here from the way they do it, I kind of justify it that way. I wouldn't do it on a grander scale than that, but also button shy, that's the only way you can get them. Is you can't get them retail. Well, not that I've seen, certainly over here in Australia. So it's kind of like that's the only way you can get button shy games. So you do pay the shipping, and I will get expansions and things sort of in amongst it. So when I bought the recent Insurmountable, which was a Scott Arms game, I got the Insurmountable expansions, plus I got the Ugly Griffin Inn and those expansions, and also one of his other games, the Food Chain Island, and all those expansions. So I'm sort of getting 9 games, if you like, for $40 and then paying 30 something shipping as well. So I'm sort of justifying the value. So maybe that's how the Simon fans do it as well. If they're getting an all-in pledge with boxes on boxes on boxes on boxes.
Was the Marvel Zombies game more expensive than your regular Zombicide game?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because obviously there's licensing fees coming out of it now.
Yeah.
And Marvel is a big license, right? So that's a big chunk of that just gone. Probably, I mean, I don't know, but probably at least 20% is just gone off the top.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Kickstarter obviously take their chunk as well.
I mean, like
flesh.
I
mean, I really hope they're not trying to recoup costs through the shipping. Which I doubt that's the case.
Yeah.
But
it's just I think it's just a shock.
I don't know.
I think people are a bit shocked. That's all, more than anything, and that might be the cost, and the cost is the cost. Because I mean, when you're getting a 45 centimeter tall Galactus or whatever that comes with that big one, I mean that's a decent sized box that needs to get imported in and then distributed out, and to a local postie, and so exactly. So, but
it sounds like it's just
exception and not the rule moving forwards, because we're all expecting shipping to go up over the next few years, and we're sort of starting to see that. This is the first one we've seen it so extreme. I think it's sort of caught everyone in the hobby off guard.
I think it sounds like it's mostly a miscommunication thing, where it's like they're not really preparing you, or not at least saying upright that it's going to be considerably more than their previous campaigns,
Yeah, so I want to change the subject, but I don't even know what the subject is, Adrian, because there's something on the show on the running sheet here about Ask Ian about Itchy Chin and Jimmy Hill.
Now, do you, Ian? I wanted to see if this travelled across to Ireland or not. When you were a little kid, and people were calling you out. People were calling you out for like lying or fibbing. When we were kids, we used to go itchy chin, or even Jimmy Hill and rub our chin. Jimmy Hill was a sports commentator who had a massive chin. So that was what we used to do. And I actually just found out about an hour ago that my Welsh friend did the same thing as a kid, and I never knew it. And we just sort of were reminiscing about silly things as a kid, and I just wanted to see if that made it across the water there over to Ireland.
Certainly not to me. No.
Fair play.
No.
I literally, my partner looked it up and was like, she just couldn't believe that was a thing, because it really was a thing. It's on Google and everything. There's people on there like talking about itchy chin, and she's like, "What were you on?" Like,
there's a lot of stuff on Google, Adrian.
Yeah, stay off the Googles, man.
That's it.
All right, Jules, let's rein it back in. Hopefully, you've been playing some games that you can share with us.
I have. I had a week off. Yeah, I had a week off work, which was a really nice, needed thing. So I got a lot of games in as I was having a look back on the week. One I'll bring up is I played Architects of the West Kingdom with Mike and a few other people yesterday, with all of the new expansions involved. That was really good. I think the expansions were very seamless and integrated well into the game, and it wasn't too much, I think, to teach new people. There were brand new people in that game learning it for the first time, so I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Had you played the base game?
2 expansions?
Yeah, 2 expansions. So the Age of Artisans and the Works of Wonder.
Gotcha.
And have you played the base game?
Yes,
just
I
this
have.
base?
Yeah, I have a few times. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the highlights of my week, not my Sizzling game, but one of the highlights, Def taught me Gaia Project this week for the first time. And I beat the maestro himself that had played 50 plus games, and this newbie just waltzes in. So credit to him. He was a good teacher. So that must be why I took the W. But yeah, that was a really good game. I can say it's not a game I'd ever buy, but I'd never say no to playing it. It's a fantastic efficiency puzzle, and I can see with all the factions and the randomization and the board layout and all these factors that just make that puzzle so fresh every time and interesting and interactive. And I really enjoyed playing it. So I would definitely play that again.
I know that just from recently, Gaia Project was up against On Mars in the bracket, and
yes,
Gaia Project won, which was actually a big shock, if I'm honest. I just thought there was that. On Mars was just so much more. I don't know. I feel it's like it's more well known or more known to the masses than Gaia Project is. Gaia Project is like, I don't know, even more niche in my head. Obviously not, because
it's an interesting one.
But like, I find that Gaia Project is just so different every time you play it. Like, everything's different, especially with the factions thing. That's like crazy. And I know that Ian spoke about it even in the Facebook community recently, and you said that you'd played it 70 times. You're playing your 70th game.
Yeah, more now.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're almost on 75 now.
Yeah, there you go.
He's got a few 2 cents to add then. What are your thoughts on Gaia Project?
It's amazing. It's I think it's my favorite game now. It's hard to say that, but I'm pretty sure Glory to Rome for the longest time was my number one game, and I think Gaia Project has overtaken it.
Yeah, wow.
What is it about Gaia Project? Yeah,
and how does it change after 70 odd plays? Are you constantly finding new strats or just discovering sort of new synergies in the game, or what is it that keeps coming back?
The biggest change is that my score is going down. If I'm being honest.
Maybe you can help me. I think my score, you can tell me whether it was good or not, because I have no idea.
I'm not the best judge of that.
137.
That's not. Is that your first game?
Yeah, first game.
It's not bad. That is pretty good first game score. What faction did you play?
I played as the one that starts with 3 mines on the board. Xenos?
Yeah, the yellow ones. Yeah. So I have a little bit of a weird history with Gaia Project because I really liked Terra Mystica. Played that quite a bit, not nearly as much. And then when Gaia Project came out, somebody taught it to me in a group, and I had just a really bad experience, and I don't know why. Right. It didn't click with me. I thought at the time a lot of it was adding complication for complication's sake.
Sure.
It was also a slightly dodgy teach, to be honest.
Right.
We messed up the Gaia planet, how that all worked.
Oh, yeah, the Gaia formers and stuff. Yeah.
And I actually played it twice back then, and it just didn't click with me, and I never went back to it. But enough people over the years have said it's their favorite game. It's great.
Yeah, right.
That it was kind of, this happens every now and then, that I kind of think, oh, that's a me problem, not a game problem. So much so that I actually went and bought it and relearned it, and that was like last September.
Oh, so not long ago.
No, not long ago at all.
Wow.
We've been hammering Gaia.
Wow. You bought it in the full knowledge of, I don't like this game, but I'm still going to keep trying. I haven't liked it
previously, but I'm pretty sure it's an excellent game. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
I've done that with 2 games, and Trajan is the other game.
Okay,
I ended up being right about Trajan as well. I played a few more times, and I was like, actually, this is incredible.
Wow.
I was a dum-dum. So Gaia Project has been, the vast majority is 2 players. Myself and my wife play all the time. I've played maybe 4, maybe 5 games outside of, like, not just with my wife.
Do you use the Automas?
No.
Okay.
I never have. Just straight 2-player.
Yeah, right. Because Def said,
same as us.
Yeah, Def uses, or he used to play with his wife just solely those 2, but now they never play without the Automas. They reckon it's super good and seamless. But yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know people did that.
Yeah. You can
to be honest,
the next 70 plays.
I've completely stayed away from the forums and everything, because I know lots of people are like, are the factions balanced? And I don't really care, honestly.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's a fantastic puzzle. Every time you set it up, you look at the board and you go, okay, what's important?
Yeah.
What's not important? Even the decision of what faction that you take at the start is
huge,
super important.
Have you got a favorite faction? Is there one that if you pull it out and go, oh, I love this one. I'm so glad I got this one.
Well, we don't do random. We take turns in choosing first, and then we set up the board. We set up everything, and then we take turns in who chooses first. That's how we do it.
That's cool.
Like a draft.
Yeah. Because there are some setups that are just no good for certain factions. So if it was random and you got a faction that didn't work with the setup, it'd be like,
right,
okay.
Mm.
Do I have some favorites? Yeah, I'm terrible at remembering the names. One of the white factions that can use each of their power as 2 power.
Oh, that's my favorite. That is my favorite. I love them. Yeah, they're so good because you could just cane that track and just constantly use those things.
Yeah,
it's good. I love it.
And there is another one that I really like, and I'm struggling to remember. Oh, the one that can swap their planetary institute with one of their mines, the brown one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what they're called.
I played against Def and his wife, and a friend of ours, and Def's wife Dimmy had that. And when you start to move that around and create new federations, it blew me away because I'd never seen it before. Because I'd only played it 2-player, just me and MJ, and I'd never tried that faction. And then when she started to do that, I think she made 3 federations like really quite close together in the game. And I was like, wow, this is next level crazy. Like, it really changed the game.
Yeah, we
absolutely got dominated.
We haven't gotten. I think 5 federations is our record so far.
Wow, that is a lot. I think I did 3 in my game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but it really depends on the setup. Sometimes and even your score really depends on the setup. Like sometimes you look at the setup and you go, this isn't going to be a super high scoring game. Just in general, the opportunity's not there.
Yeah.
But it's just so clever. There's just tensions in every direction and agonizing decisions. Even the decision of once you have a trading post out, if you upgrade to get a tech, like there's a branching tree of your upgrades. If you upgrade to get your special power, or if you upgrade to get your tech, is a huge decision.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not even close to being sick of it.
Wow,
not even awesome. Close. Yeah,
that is so cool. There's only one other game I've played even close that many times. It'd be Super Fantasy Brawl, but those are quick games. Gaia is like a 2-3 hour game.
Yeah. Glory to Rome is the only game that I've played more of at this stage.
Yeah. Wow. So I wanted to ask you, Ian. I was going to say the one gripe I have with Gaia is just the aesthetic. I can't. I just don't like it at all. The artwork to me is just terrible. I don't know why. I know art is all subjective and stuff, but I will say the graphic design in terms of the iconography all made really good sense. But the artwork to me just is nothing. I think that could do with a new lick of paint, personally.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a little brown and grey.
Yeah, is just a little bit.
Yeah, and black. So it's not the most exciting. But I agree. I think graphic design wise, and for actually learning the game and teaching the game, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you. I've seen. I'm pretty sure it was earlier this year. You've put out a few tweets asking about who owns the license for a few games. And I think one of them was El Grande. And obviously you've got the artwork you've done for Ra, which is coming to GameFound in just a few days.
It looks great.
And it looks exceptional.
I love the colors.
Thanks.
I know, obviously, those are both Rainer Knizia games. Are you trying to do more of his old classics and revamp a lot of things? Like, what's going on there?
Not especially. If there's a game that I think should be on the market, and El Grande is a great example of that. Like the fact that that's out of print is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I will kind of, if it's a game that I like, I'll kind of try and figure out what's the deal. Just sometimes it's just curiosity, but other times it's like I could do that. That would be a nice one to do. And I think also El Grande is a game that could benefit from looking better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Samurai is another one, which is the Knizia game that I was asking about. Samurai is a great game.
Because Fantasy Flight was the last company that did the version of that, wasn't it?
Yeah, or Wind Rider, which was their kind of Euro line.
Mm.
And it's really just the case that I like everything that I've not everything. A lot of the stuff that has come up in games for me has been just because I asked about it. Or
is that what happened with Ra?
No. So, Chad from 25th Century Games contacted me. I was already working on a different game for him, which is Blazing.
Okay.
Which is coming out soon as well.
Yes.
And he said, "Oh, would you be interested in doing Ra?"
That's cool.
But yeah, if I see that there's a game that's not on the market that should be on the market, it's just no harm to reach out and say, if anyone's interested in doing this, I'll have a go at it. You know, and you never know. Like that kind of approach has worked pretty well for me so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how my relationship with Vital started.
Yeah, of course, that's right.
That's how I got Nemo's War. I wrote him an email and said, "Can I do this?" And he went, "Sure." Oh, there it is.
Yeah, sitting behind Dan there.
Yeah, it's on myself.
Do you ever do like old classics in your free time just for fun? Like if you've got an hour spare, you're like, I'm just going to quickly do a little sketch up of what I think I'd like it to look like for a laugh.
Cluedo.
The reason I'm laughing is because you mentioned free time and an hour to spare.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, okay, fair play.
No, I don't. I would really like to. I still really want to do Castles of Burgundy, and I can't at this stage now that they're on their third, with the Awakened Realms, which is
weird,
the most bizarre news ever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get a shot at that game, and I'd like to just do it, but I can't. It takes so much time. I can't afford to be doing that.
Is it because you like the game? Is that why you want to do it?
It's great. I think it could look better, and I don't even think it's that difficult to make it look better. With all respect to anyone else who's tried, it's.
I think you've got the clout to say that.
Well, it's a midweight Euro game. You know, it's not too demanding. I don't think. I am super interested to see what Awakened Realms do with it. It's already. I don't think it's going to be what I would have done with it. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. But that's fine. It's just like Awakened Realms and Castles of Burgundy. When I saw that news, I was like, wait, that can't be right. You know,
April Fools.
Yeah, well, it was only a few days after, right?
I know. That's what I thought, because I was like, that's a bit late for an April Fools. That has to be real. Like, it's a bit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's not a thing that you'd mash together usually. You know, it's a bit of such an odd one. But hey, we'll see what happens, right?
So yeah, I would love to do that. Take some time off and do that, but it's not on the cards at the moment.
You know what I'd love to see? I'd love to see. You guys are aware of the Criterion collection, where Criterion take movies and then they repackage them with heaps of added extras, and so you can get like the Criterion collection of some current movies, but also some hard to find ones, and you can get all this sort of extra material with it. I'd love to see like a Criterion style of like Ian O'Toole-ified games. We can just buy an old game and just get the Ian O'Toole edition.
Yeah, I have genuinely seriously considered pitching something like that.
That would be
awesome.
I'd love to have like a curated collection of games with additional, like exactly what you said, with additional material like interviews with the designer and all that sort of stuff, like development notes, and because a lot of these games that we see on the market, there's huge stories behind them that you just don't know.
Yeah, true.
I spoke to, I won't go into too much detail, but I spoke to a developer at Essen who developed one of my favorite games by one of my favorite designers, who I will not name. But the story he told me about the road that like what that game was and what it became and how it ended up what it was I couldn't believe it. Like, it was amazing. And it would be really great to have like a game that had that information in it, back licensing is the issue, and I think it's a complicated thing, but I've definitely considered it in the past.
But really, particularly for the hobbyists, not so much the collectors, but for the real sort of avid hobbyists, to find out more about even just some of the stuff that you've seen every now and then on Kickstarter with the design journals and all those sort of the evolution of those games. Fascinating to sort of have that in like an actual collection.
I am
cool.
One of the ones that I have actually read a little bit about, Dan, is Kevin Riley, the guy who did Aeon's End. Like his journey from esports into the board game industry and stuff. I found a blog or something online. It was really interesting. It was a really interesting read. Like,
I think I read something similar when we had Nick and Sydney on the show last year in preparation for that, and sort of how they came on board and sort of changed the direction slightly and put more focus on the story and the narrative of it, rather than just being a deck builder with mages. They've actually tried to sort of inject a real
universe.
Story and exactly.
It is very university feel. So
I'm still in the middle of it because I've just been playing a little bit of Legacy of Gravehold as well. But I'll save that for an episode where you and I and Sarah are on, and we can talk about it properly. But from the big games, I always want to give a quick mention to a couple of smaller games that I've been playing since I was last on. One was Star Wars Jabba's Palace, the love letter game that I think Mitch sizzled a couple of weeks back. This is fantastic. And one thing that I was really interested in when Mitch talked about it was that it had actually two factions in it. It's got the Rebels and it's got Jabba's Palace factions. And it's not just your simple love letter now where you're playing to either be the last person standing with the highest value card. But you can play these scenarios, and the scenario might be have the most rebel cards in front of you, or have have an equal amount of rebel and palace, because the deck is actually skewed so there's more palace cards than there are rebels. So, but then when you've got your two top tier cards, one being Luke and the other one, I can't remember who it is. Maybe it's Boba Fett, but you can play it, and if the other person has a palace card in their hand, or if you play one of the high palace card, if the other player has a rebel card, they lose, as opposed to whether the value doesn't really matter. It's whether they've got the goodies or the baddies in their hand. It's a really interesting way of playing, or taking that love letter sort of engine, if you like, or the mechanics, and just putting a different spin on it. Because I've played the love letter Batman, and I've played love letter something else, maybe it was Adventure Time, and they're pretty much just a reskin for lack of a better word, whereas this actually does do something different, which I really appreciated. So if anyone hasn't played love letter, and the whole giving the princess a letter didn't really appeal, but you are into Star Wars, I definitely recommend giving that one a go. And
is the play of the game the same, or do you still have two cards and you play one of them?
Yep. Okay. It's exactly the same. So, and it recommends there's 4 different scenarios, and the first one is just simply be the last man standing with the highest card. And then once you get the hang of that sort of gameplay, because the cards themselves have different actions, there's still some of the similar tropes. So the number 4 is you're immune. So no action can be played against you. The number 2 card is you can look at what the other player has, and if you're playing the rebel, which I think is R2D2, you get to look at what one of the players has, or what one of the hidden cards is, because how you take one card out, so you can't count the deck and keep track. You actually get to have a look at that instead of what someone else. So that's a nice little touch as well. But for the most part, it really just plays the same. But it's nice having that IP and having those pictures on there as well. But like I said, to go even smaller than that, we've been playing a little bit on BGA with some of the guys in the community. Bandito.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, never heard of it.
There's a lot of games that where you're not allowed to talk while you play. They translate so well to BGA because you have that communication gap anyway. So Bandito is a really, really simple game where you have a series of cards, and everyone has 3 cards, and it's essentially this Bandito who's in a prison, buried in the ground, and he's trying to dig tunnels to escape. And everyone has these sort of 1x2 length cards, and you play them, take turns, but you're not allowed to communicate with each other what you've got. and you're trying to lay these tunnels down, but have a flashlight at the end, and you're trying to block him off. But invariably, there's only about maybe 10, 12 of those sort of security flashlights, and the rest are all T-intersections and junctures. And so where he starts off as having sort of 5 escape routes, and you're trying to work together to close off all these escape routes, you invariably end up creating more, and it just gets starts to get out of control. It's like, it's funny because it'll end up going around the table, and one person will block off one route, someone else will block off another one. There's only one route left, but you don't have one in your hand that blocks it off. Instead, you've got like 2 T-intersections and a complete cross section. And you're like, I'm sorry, guys, you play that card, and suddenly now there's 3 escape routes that everyone's got to try to contain.
I have heard of this. I'm sure you spoke about it, didn't you? Or someone has.
I spoke about it probably nearly a year and a half ago, 2 years, because and the publisher's has escaped me, but what they did during the pandemic was they released a print and play, and it was about the COVID the COVID virus. So it was for kids, because I printed it off and laminated it, and I was playing it with Jack, and it was the same thing. It was this virus, and it was trying to escape, and you were trying to put down these tunnels, and at the end of the tunnel was someone washing their hands, someone using a tissue, someone using hand sanitizer. So it was kind of like a kid-friendly game of trying to help them understand what the hell's going on in the world, but also was put out by the makers of Bandita. And there's also a Bandita version as well, where she has a couple of tricks up her sleeve. Apparently, I haven't played it, but I did see it for sale the other day at Games Empire, so I might check that one out. So that's just 2 really small sort of little games that I've been getting to the table because, and I want to talk to you. I didn't put this in the running notes, but it's been a while since I've been on the show. But I actually, a bit of a confession, I lost my mojo for about 3 weeks. Like, work was getting really, really rough, and it was just like, I don't feel like playing games anymore. And
it happens.
It was just a really sort of weird feeling because games have always been my escape. But I think I went for almost 3 weeks outside of getting alerted on BGA that it was my turn to move. I didn't get anything to the table. Has that ever happened to you guys?
It can't be a midlife crisis because you are well past that. No, in fairness, Dan, it does happen. It's happened to me a couple of times. Sometimes you just like, as I get real excited on a Sunday morning. I'm like, right, I'm going to play a game. This is going to be awesome. And then when it comes to it, I'm just like, I don't really know what I want to play. And I just think I might just like not play something and just do something else, gardening or go out or whatever. But it does happen. Like, it's like anything. Like, having a break from it, I think, is not a bad thing because then you come back kind of reinvigorated, like, oh, awesome. This is why I love this. I've had a break from it and I'm back in the swing of it, so.
Do you play like a wide range of genres and types of games, or do you have like specific types that you tend to stick to?
I have. It's funny because one of the things that got me back into it as well, and I have my almost like comfort food. I got out Pandemic because that for me is like comfort food, and it's just I can punch out a game an hour. I played it solo. Like I played Iberia, which is probably one of my favorites of the
it's the best
Pandemic games. But for me, that was my sort of my comfort because my Oath, which we'll talk about later in the show, I put that out on the table at least twice with all the bits and just went, I can't do it. It took me a while for a tiny epic game. It shouldn't take so long to bloody set up. But besides that, I just started getting a bit anxious and went, oh, no, I can't really play this. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm on a podcast. I should be playing games to talk about them. And I even pulled out of an episode a couple of weeks ago because I just didn't have anything to talk about because I hadn't been playing much.
Yeah, I find I ebb and flow. Like Euro games, midweight Euro games are like my baseline. That's kind of where I live, and a little bit heavier, from time to time. But I do sometimes get to the stage where I just like crave a Mansions of Madness or something like that, and I really don't play those types of games very often. Like I would play 1 or 2, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm reset now,
Yeah.
And I'd be back to the Euro games. And sometimes something I find really good for if I'm not particularly in the mood for a game is card games. And actually just like traditional card games, like just playing Hearts or something like that. I really enjoy because it still has the benefits, the social benefits of a board game. Like you're still doing something that's fun together and spending time together, but you do not have to think about it at all.
Yeah.
And the game just fades into the background.
And then you still get that you still scratch that itch, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
Of a little bit of gaming.
I really love traditional card games. I love traditional card games as well. Like for that kind of environment where it's just you don't really want to play a game, but you don't want to watch like TV or something. You still want to spend time together, but you don't want to sit around a table staring at each other, talking to each other. It's just well, let's put something between us. It's kind of like nibbles, right? Like food.
Yes,
it has the same effect, right? It's just something to do while you're chatting.
Yeah.
I have the same thing with you, Ian. Like I played a lot of thematic games at the start of my hobby, and then I went and played a lot of Euros, and I love Euros, and Euros I just keep playing them, to no end. But I was always looking for another thematic game to go back to because I just couldn't find anything that scratched that itch back again. Until I played Kingdom Death Monster, and that has just got me straight back, deep into a thematic game because it's done so well and they've done it great. And that's a game that I can play now. And I've never ever in my life had a regular game group ever. I've just played with MJ, and then I occasionally, go to random people's houses that I know and play a game as a game night, and that's it. But this is now like a game group that we have where we meet up, and it's like has a purpose almost. Like we host and we play this game, and this is a thing that we all share together. And I've really enjoyed that. And what I want to say is like the consistency, like the meeting on every second Wednesday, like as a deadline type thing, has really, the structure to it has really made me enjoy it as well. Like because we're all doing it, we're all meeting, we're all playing. And that's it. And then that's my fix for that. Like that's my thematic fix. Then on the weekends I'm playing Res Arcana and things like that. So
you had a funny story during the week from your last KDM session.
So do you have to put some sort of advice for what is it? Course language and
parental
adults.
And there's no course language involved.
Parental warning.
Parental warning.
Parental warning for the scenarios about to be spoken by Adrian could cause distress for some people.
Yeah. Dan can edit from here.
I'll put something in.
And then if you don't want to listen, forward to whatever
time.
Like I wasn't going to mention this. I was going to keep it cool, but Jules is like, "Oh, you got to talk about it. It's funny."
Curious. He says
we came across a monster.
Okay,
and MJ got an event card which had her come across this particular feces. Now the options were, I believe.
Did you get a special edition of this game?
No, this is the game. Yeah. It was.
It was half price at the market, and someone's actually listing themselves.
I think it was the options were to burn it, to ignore it,
but the best option,
to eat it.
Yeah, worst option.
And unfortunately for MJ, with my group, it was I think 3 people chanting "Eat it," and so you chose that option, and then you roll the dice, and you have. I believe 3 different options from that. So it was like a 1 to 3 was like nothing happens, blah, blah, blah. I think a 6 plus or whatever was, you feel sick and you don't like it or whatever. And then the other, which was I think a 4 and a 5, was basically you get a taste for this thing and you eat the entire thing and it's now your lifestyle. And for the remainder of the game until that hero dies, everybody at the table has to call you Scatman. So that was what happened to MJ. She rolled the 4 and that was it.
So no benefit. Like there's no even in the game universe, there's no way this is going to be a good thing.
No, it was a bad thing.
Do you see the table before you make the decision?
No, because someone has like the book, almost like a Dungeon Master-esque.
Right.
I think there was a benefit. I think on a 10, like on a crit, basically. Yeah. But I mean, the game's incredibly graphic in all elements, and as we play it more, it gets more down that rabbit hole. And I don't know why I'm so enamored with it.
So I
know.
I have a Kingdom Death Monster question. So are you the only one who's played it, Adrian?
No, Jules has played it as well.
I haven't, but I'm fairly familiar with.
Yeah.
The
the premise of it.
Yeah, the premise of it.
Yeah.
Are either of you familiar with a manga called Berserk?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
I know that was a lot of inspiration from it. That's all I know.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I have watched maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 episodes of that a long time ago.
If you do like King and Death Monster, which it sounds like you do, I would strongly recommend reading it as opposed to watching it. It's very long. There are big hardcover editions. They're quite expensive, but they're really good. There's like 10 of them.
Yeah.
Very strong content warning.
Yes.
Very strong content warning. Like
same in this. Like
seriously
extreme.
strong content
Yeah.
warning.
100%.
But the artistry, the artwork, it's incredible. Also, as you read through it, you'll be like, oh, that's where that came from King of Death Monster. Oh, that's where that came from Dark Souls. Oh, that's where Elden Ring got that armor design from. Like it is, it's the Bible for this stuff.
Wow,
and it is the genesis point for dark fantasy, I think. Visually for dark fantasy.
I didn't realize that it was had wider reach than KDM, because all I know from reading about it is it was a major inspiration.
All of the Dark Souls stuff is to be unkind, is basically Berserk fan fiction.
Wow, there you go.
And certainly like from a visual cues point of view, like even the faces on the ground in King and Death Monster, that's from Berserk. It's I would strongly recommend it, as long as you're okay with that sort of content, which not a recommend to everybody. But,
Well, I know that there's an expansion that's coming for this, where they've started to release some more images or things, because they've got expansions on top of expansions and minis and resin models and all this. And when you start to go down that rabbit hole, it's like an endless pit of stuff. But there is one that really interests me. I believe that there is one where you make your own scenarios. You can build your own stuff around things. I don't know whether that's in the pipeline, or if it's already a thing, or it's something that I read potentially might be happening. And that would really intrigue me, because then you could get like some cool like minis from something else, or some STL files for something, and print stuff, and that would be very cool.
So what do these expansions look like? Are they not just minis, but does it come with another book full of different scenarios? And because it sounds
more
like
cards,
sounds
more
like
scenarios.
The books themselves have so many different scenarios covered.
Yeah, they come with the game itself comes with like a hardback book for its rule book itself.
And the story.
And it has a story inside it and everything, and there's like a thing that you follow, but the expansions, they come with like usually like a boss, and then some minis for because your characters tend to harvest stuff from the boss or find things that he drops, so therefore the minis then are tilted towards his armor type or that creature's scales or whatever in the armor. So then you can paint those minis, so as you progress you then build the minis to match.
Matches the armor sets you win off those bosses. Yeah. That's very thematic. You're not using these plain minis and imagining they got dragon armor or whatever. You actually have a mini for every type of boss and the armor they drop, basically.
But not even just that, like it's all on sprues.
Yes.
So I've
got to build it.
We've killed the antelope, and we're going to start building the armor set from him. But when we killed the lion, we built weapons from him. So we actually have the weapons from the lion.
So you're physically taking the models apart and then reassembling them into an armor and things,
No,
are you?
there's just lots of copies of models.
Oh.
Yeah. So like literally you'll have the starting ones which have loincloths and no armor. And then you've got versions that have weapons from the lion. And you've got versions that have leather armor from the antelope. And you've got versions that have upgraded gear from the next thing. So there's just lots of copies of people you can play as. It's quite incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really interesting.
Yeah. The reason I brought up, and wanted to hear your story, Adrian, about KDMs, because during the week I also finished assembling and painting a model that you'd sent to me for it, which is the Butcher. So I'm very, very keen to get that sent and see how you go with that, because he looks very intimidating.
Well, he will be the first thing that we fought that isn't a creature.
It'll be a humanoid.
He's the first humanoid type thing that we fight, so he has a different type of intelligence and stuff. And I've spoken about KDM a couple of times, and we always do like a bit of a little update here and there, but it's just the AI decks, the thematic ties to the actions and what these monsters do, and building your settlement and, crafting the weapons. Everything is just so overly thematic in this completely disturbing, dark world.
Yeah.
It's really well done. And I think that's what the intrigue is. There's no beating around the bush or, winks and nods to stuff. It's full on. Like, it is full on. But I actually really like it, so it's just interesting.
Does it have the ability to sort of have players drop in and drop out, or is it once you start the campaign, then that's it? Those players are locked in for the duration.
No, you would play with them. So, like, if we couldn't have someone join us that night, we could either cancel, or we would play 4-player and use that person's hero with his weapons and abilities in the game. But if you die, that's it. You die. You're out. And you then have to go back to the settlement and, recruit somebody else to come with you.
Make a new person.
There's also there's intimacy as well. So you can actually
procreate.
Procreate. There you go. That's the word. I was looking for that.
Yes.
Yeah, you can procreate and you can also, as you retire, you can hand down knowledge to other people. So if you had a weapons master in a certain thing, if he retires, he can be in the settlement and pass that knowledge down to other survivors so that they can become proficient with certain weapons and stuff. It is insanely detailed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't.
I'm just looking at the running sheet, and scatological themes and intimacy probably couldn't be further away from your sizzle, Adrian.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Hey everyone, it's Sarah here. I want to talk a little bit about one of our sponsors who has sponsored the podcast from the very beginning, and that is Advent Games. AdventGames.com.au is an Australian board game store. This is the store where I get all of my games from, so you know that I'm not just advertising it just because. This is very personal to me. And Dean, who runs it, is very knowledgeable about games. He is a huge board gamer himself, and he often gives advice and things like that, and just awesome all-round customer service. So all around New South Wales, you can get flat rate shipping from adventgames.com.au for $10. If you're somewhere else in Australia, you can get flat rate shipping for $15, not that much more. And if you are super local, you can even see Dean at Chatswood on Tuesday nights to pick up games from him, from his very paws. So that is adventgames.com.au. Thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast.
So, Adrian.
Yes. I actually have been playing a game recently. It's a family game, so completely other end of the spectrum to the last game. But it's a strange one because it's inspired Finn a bit to want to play it because he sees us sit down every other Wednesday and set this KDM up, and we're all talking about it, and it's dungeon crawlery and all this kind of stuff. And he's only 6. There's not a lot in that realm for him to sort of play, but also not be sort of handheld through. So Jaws of the Lion, it's just too much. He's not going to be able to get it, and it would just be too hard. But this is a Kickstarter that I backed back in the middle of the pandemic, and it was I instantly knew. I was like, this is a game that I'm going to get, and when it arrives after a few months, I know that he'll want to play it. And that actually, I think, has a little bit of a tie into Ian's family as well, potentially. CoraQuest.
CoraQuest, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Because I thought that was really interesting today when I was doing a bit of reading about it. I believe maybe your children have got art in this or some drawings?
My 2 kids drew 2 of the characters.
Oh, that's cool.
Each. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hang on. So Robo Kettle.
Really? That's my favourite.
Yeah.
My hell's the bomb, man.
So my eldest drew Robo Kettle. Ivy,
so cool.
And my youngest Faye drew a Healer Cat.
I play Healer Cat.
And so there's Healer Cat has a bodyguard cat.
Yeah.
Faye was a little disappointed because her original title was Healer Cat and Axe Kitty.
Right.
Okay.
Because the little one looks angry and has an axe, and
Yeah.
the other one's like a nurse cat. But yeah.
Yeah, I always play the healer. Like, you guys know that I play the healers in these games. And I was like, Healer Cat, that's me. I'm taking that one. And then Robo Kettle and the Dwarf, because you have to play a 4-player in this game. You always play with 4. Same sort of thing as KDM. But the 4th player is usually the Robo one who's like the tank. He's like the dude with the shield and the armor, and he goes in. He's got the most health points and stuff like that. But it's essentially like CoraQuest is a dungeon crawler for young kids. Like, it's a 6 plus, I'd say, game, but it's got some really interesting mechanisms in it built to help kids understand games, and also for the longevity of games. Like, it has a short mode and a long mode, so the game itself evolves around this modular dungeon. And let's say you had 16 cards in your dungeon, you would set them out into 4 piles of 4. And then you would then get the event, and the quest would tell you what number cards to put into each pile. So it might say, like, put in an A, B, C, and a D into each one of those 4 piles. So you have an A deck, B deck, C deck, and a D deck. Shuffle them, and then put them on top of each other. So it ascends down A, B, C, D. As you then go through the dungeon, you're pulling out the events in the right order. But there's been a couple of times where Finn wants to play, but you can kind of tell it's a bit late and he's sort of teetering on that edge. So I've even just done it with just 2 decks, just 2 cards. Like, it says the short version's 3, but I'm like, well, there's no harm in just putting 2 normal dungeon cards in and then 1 event card. So you just got it just accelerates the game faster. That's all it does. And it's just really cool. It's you get basic actions of moving around a dungeon, finding treasure, picking up like cool weapons and upgrading things, and that's been really fun. And also, like, I've liked the fact that it has like this mechanism where if you roll your dice to attack, if you miss, you become, I can't remember the word, but it's like focused.
Determined or something?
Determined, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And you flip your player's card over, and then you get bonus dice for your next rolls. So
that's a nice touch, especially for kids as well.
Yeah, because there has been times where we've like missed, and it's been like, oh no, we're all in trouble now because there's like a whole heap of mobs now spawning. And there's also another really interesting mechanic that keeps the game moving. And for someone that's not used to those kind of mechanics, I do sometimes forget to do this. It's called Seek. So if the game goes around the table and nobody seeks, as in reveals new parts of the dungeon, it moves this little skull down this little track. And if that skull falls off that track, it spawns spider mobs everywhere. Like anywhere that there's a cobweb in the dungeon, it spawns mobs. And that's a nightmare. Like, that's a problem. Because you don't want that. Because they don't have a lot of health or anything, but they're just irritating. They're everywhere that there's pretty much every modular of the dungeon has one of those spider webs, so it becomes a massive issue really fast. But it's just a lovely game. Like, I mean, it's inspired. I said there was a crossover with Kingdom Death Monster before, but the name for the first boss is now the name of MJ's character in Kingdom Death Monster. Which is sort of minor spoilers. It's Slithers McBiscuit. The great names, great humor, and I actually really, it's got some really cool stuff in it as well. The components quality is great. You have the dials with the health points and all that kind of stuff. Massive, big, chunky dice, which is fantastic. But it also has like an ability which I haven't used yet. There's like an app-driven thing for the story, and you can actually have the stories read out to you as you play. So when you find these new things, you hit the button on the app, and it'll have I believe Dan himself did all the voiceovers, and he's this English dude who designed it, and Cora Hughes as well. His daughter was a big part of this development of this game. And it's just really awesome, really, really funny humor in it. The names are great. Like, Robo Kettle is a prime example. Like, that's kind of that kind of cool kid humor. And the style of the style of the art and stuff is really good. Like, it's really fun. It's very, you can tell it looks like it's done by kids, but it's professionally done. So I found that interesting. So if they had lots of different people drawing this, how was it how did they get it to be make it look so
consistent
similar?
thing? Yeah, consistent. With great difficulty. So pretty much, as I understand it, every piece of artwork, every character, every enemy, even the spiders and everything is all drawn by kids.
That's so cool.
From all over the world. In fact, I think in the inside of the box, or maybe
it's got all the names. It's got all the names for all the kids.
Nice. Two are on there somewhere. And Gary King, who's the guy who did the artwork for the game, basically took their drawings and colored them in and drew over them with line work, but very much kept the spirit of those drawings.
The character of it.
Yeah, there's videos online of him drawing over it, and you can see he hasn't really changed anything, proportion-wise, and it ends up, you get these really charming characteristics. All the goblins and things are just hilarious, and it's a very charming game overall. One of the things actually that they have that I really like is the game, especially in the manual. It's very concerned with making people understand that it's their game and they can play it however they want. Speaking to what Adrian was saying about changing rules, it's just like, don't worry about it. Just have fun with it. It's got an app that you can, exactly, how to customize it. Has a whole sheet on how to make it your own. So it has an app that you can photograph a drawing you've made, or anything, I guess, and you can make your own character sheet out of it. It has has a template, and you can put whatever you want, put whatever powers in.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you any sort of, make sure you give one of these and one of these. It's just like, do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Have fun with it. Go crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that sort of spirit of creativity really shines through. I think it's so great.
There's also really cards in here that are blank. There's blank cards.
Yeah, great.
And stickers of weapons, different gadgets and stuff. And then you can stick them on and just do whatever you want. So we had one where it had
Jack would love that.
Yeah.
2 crossbows.
That's right. The sticker sheet.
Like there's 2 crossbows. They're shorter range. That's what we're going to do with ours. It's a shorter range one, but there's 2, and you can shoot
wield crossbows.
Yeah, the left and the right. Yeah, the left and the right of you.
Yeah.
Just like, and that's it. So you can go only like left and right. So you're like dual wielding, like Guns Akimbo style. But yeah, like it's really clever. It's really well done. And I don't know if it's going to retail or not, but I would hope it would.
Yeah. So there's a publisher in England. I can't remember who it is now. Who have picked it up.
It's great news.
And they're publishing it. And also one of the things...
It deserves it, 100%.
I agree. Also, one of the things that I know Dan was very passionate about is it's a small box and it's a low price point.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I backed it.
It's all it's a nice small box. It's all standees. There's no miniatures or anything like that. There's, some dice. But very modest production. Exactly what it needs for that sort of game.
Yeah.
Really, really, really good.
You'd lose the character if you went minis and things and made it something else. Like, and it's the art of the kids that really does
also
make it fun.
Make your own minis. You can, but like kids can't make their own minis, right? Whereas if they see artwork that's like clearly made by other kids, like if it was a case where it was Marvel Zombiecide or something, and they said, "Here, you can make your own characters." No. Like kids might try it, but they're not gonna I can't make it as good, and it doesn't look as fancy. Whereas this artwork is clearly made by kids, it's far more approachable. Really, really good.
Yeah, great game. It's awesome. Like I would definitely tell people to try and find a copy when it does come out, because it's just it's like a first intro to a dungeon crawler. Then you could go on to something like Tiny Epic Dungeons or something like that, maybe in a couple of years or something. It teaches those first principles of dungeon crawling. And obviously Finn is just a treasure obsessed fool. Like he
all kids are.
I'm like, right, what we're gonna do is like, I'm getting the treasure, and I'm like, but there's like 6 bad guys to deal with, dude. Like, what are you doing to me? Are you gonna make me try and handle this?
Yeah.
It's like, but there could be like an amazing weapon in there that will deal like loads of damage, Dad. And I'm like, yeah, but I bet you there's not. And then he pulls out a trap card. He's like, oh, it was a trap. Sorry. I'm like,
Dad, deal with it.
Yeah, we're gonna do
kids
this
are the
now.
same.
Yeah. But that's kind of the fun. That's kind of part of the fun. They learn, and he definitely there was a like a mega chest at one point. Like there's this huge mega chest, and if you get in this mega chest, like you got to roll to get in it. And if you don't do it, you fail. And I think you lose 3 health or something. And he obviously was like, I have to go there. It's an epic treasure, Dad. It's such good loot. I'm like, all right, dude, you go for it. Rolls it, fails, gets 3 damage, and dies. so upset. It's just like, yeah, yeah. What does that mean? I'm like, well, it means we start again, dude. And we started again. And when we played it again, yeah, he didn't open that treasure chest again. He left that well alone. I learned my lesson. So no, it's really good. I really rate it. It's so easy to teach, even for kids who've never done a dungeon crawler before. It's so easy. It's like basic actions of move, search, seek, and attack, really.
You don't even really need to teach it, because the game starts with a little introduction and 1 tile on the board, and your standees are there. So it's much more of a what do you want to do scenario. You know, do you want to walk this way? Do you want to look what's in the treasure chest? You know, you don't need to go through the whole rules, I don't think.
Yeah, we really didn't. We just said, if you want to move, you move, and fight, you fight. And here's your card. It says there you've got a crossbow and it does that many squares. So you just math it out, and if you think you can reach him, then you can attack him if you want. So no, it's really good, really highly rated. So
yeah, oh, it's cool,
awesome. So that's Cora Quest from Dan and Cora Hughes, and is it Bright Eye Games?
That's right.
Yep. I just did a quick check on BGG. Now, speaking of cool artwork and also minis, Jules, you've been playing something that I love the aesthetic of this game, but it's from hearing you talk about it recently. It doesn't play the way I expected it to play.
So we're on a bit of a theme today. I'm talking about TownsfolK Tussle, which has been delivering, and it's a lot of people say it's Kingdom Death Monster Light, and they're correct to a degree. I guess the light version being, it's very stripped back. So it focuses on a lot of the core mechanics, where it's a boss battling game, and you go through 4 boss battles, and each of them get progressively harder. And you collect loot and items, and you pull event cards between those battles that sort of build a story. The story is a lot lighter than Kingdom Death Monster, because you don't have like injuries that carry over for years, and there's no, in Kingdom Death there's mental health issues you deal with. There's not so much of that stuff. It's a lot more basic, the stats that you're dealing with.
Just some good old fashioned tussling.
Yeah, exactly right.
With TownsfolK.
TownsfolK. Exactly. So I managed to get this out and play it solo. So I will say I probably won't play it solo a whole lot, because you have to control 3 characters, and that was quite a lot to manage in terms of the events that come out. And some of them are like, some events are this happens and that's it, and some of them are hold this event for the next battle, and if this happens, this will trigger. And you've got objectives for all the characters for the next battle, and if they're achieved, they get options for doing damage to the boss or collecting more coins, so that when they move to the market phase, they can buy more gear. It was quite a lot to manage for one person. Not impossible. It just feel like it takes a lot longer, and there's a lot of I have to focus quite hard. This is definitely a game to play, at the player count they actually recommend, which is 2 to 4 on the box, but they do have in the rule book saying if you want to play it on your own, you have to do 3 characters. But having played Kingdom Death Monster and this, I was lucky enough to get this copy for someone that was still in shrink, and I've really enjoyed Kingdom Death Monster, but the price tag is just absurd. And me being someone that really liked that game, I like not only the theme of it, but just the feel of it and the story. I was really hoping this would scratch the itch, and for me it does. I feel like I get that vibe that I want from Kingdom Death Monster with this. So, as I said, the game's much more stripped back in terms of its mechanics and its story, but it still delivers that. You've got tense rolls where you really want to roll a crit. The bosses are hard. They all have very different mechanics and do different things to the characters in the battles. So you've got that variety that Kingdom Death Monster offers as well. And I just had a really good time with it.
Have you played Cuphead's the video game?
I have not. I know a lot about it, and it's insanely hard, and the artwork's that similar style.
It's very, very similar style. But also, like, the game is also kind of similar. Cuphead's is a game where it's all big, huge, elaborately crazy boss battles that have incredibly different mechanics. So I think that looks like a transition of that. Like, it's a Cuphead's light as well.
That's almost what I was wondering as well. Because, and I mentioned at the top, I said, because the artwork, that aesthetic, it is like that Steamboat Willie sort of Cuphead aesthetic, which makes me think that it's going to be a fun, sort of funny, humorous game. But it's is there any humor in it to match?
Absolutely, there is absolutely humor in it. But I will say, even though it's Kingdom Death light in a way, there's still themes where you see limbs that have blood coming off of it, but it's all that cartoon style. So I definitely say it's not a kid's game still, but it takes it away from that gory nature and makes it a bit more light, if that makes sense, a little bit more cartoonish. So
palatable.
Yeah,
right?
a little bit more palatable. So and there is absolutely humor. I've only scratched the surface. The deck has so many event cards. It has so much gear you can unlock. Like, you'd have to play the game, I don't know, 50, 100 times to even see all of the stuff, I reckon, because it's just random what comes out. And I'll talk a little bit about my experience. So I played all the way through the 4 boss battles, and I just chose 3 random characters. I thought, yep, these 3 look cool. I'll play with them. And some of the battles were really hard and came down to the wire. One of them I probably beat in 20 minutes, and it was just really easy because I got some good rolls and everything just seemed to synergize perfectly. And on the last battle, what actually happens is, as I said, they get progressively harder. So each boss, depending on where in the order of the encounters you face, they add little mechanics here and there. And in the final boss battle I did against Hansi, which is one of the bosses, like this weird goose with, instead of heaps of feathers on the back, they're all arms. So it's got loads of arms coming off of it.
Creepy.
Yeah, really, really weird.
That was your nickname in high school, wasn't it, Adrian? Hansi?
It was because my dad's German, so makes sense.
So what happens is, at the end of the final boss battle, you read a bit of story in the back of the book, whether you lose or you win meeting a very special condition. And what happened was, I actually won using the very special condition. So it had to be a particular character had to do the final blow on the boss while they were inside a particular piece of terrain on the map. And I was like, okay, well, if that happens, cool. And as I got towards the end, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can actually do this. And I managed to pull it off. And I read the story, and it was really cool. It tells you about the connection between that character and that boss. And I won't spoil anything, but in that process, it then tells you to go back into your box and lift up the insert in the bottom, and there's a secret box underneath there. And I actually unlock some cards in that box, I won't say what it is, that are for that character. And there's a whole stack of them in this secret box. So I don't know how all of them unlock. I reckon some of them unlock with those special wins in certain ways. I reckon some of them probably unlock from losing battles. I don't know. I'm just going to go out and limit, say that's probably what happens. But I feel like there's so much to discover in this game, and for the price point that it is offering so much. For something that is very comparable, its mechanics and its feel, you get to build out a character. yes, it's not going to carry over from game to game to game to game like Kingdom Death Monster is. You play one session and it's done, but you get that feel of upgrading characters and selling gear and increasing
kind
your
of Too Many
stats.
Bonesy, Jules.
Yeah, it has similarities to Too Many Bones in that way. And you get the feel like, oh yeah, I'm making my character and it's got some cool weapons and gear and all that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very, very well done. And from someone that plays quite heavy games, I wouldn't mind there being a bit more in it. But I have heard they're coming back with more expansions and content. So I'm very excited to see if and when they do that and what that will add. So
I am sad I didn't back it.
Yeah.
I don't even know why, because I have Kingdom Death and I probably prefer it. But I just love that aesthetic, dude. It's so cool.
How about we do this? Let's just do a swap, hey?
Well, what is
I'll give you TownsfolK, you give me KDM.
I'm happy to lend you that for as long as you want it, buddy. It's fine.
Just be careful what Jules charges for shipping, Adrian.
TownsfolK Tussle uses standees as well, doesn't it?
So it has standees for everything, and it has minis for everything. So you can play with either or. So it has minis for all the characters and the bosses, but it also has standees, so you can choose.
Oh wow! Yeah. Is that standard, or do you have
I believe
to pay
so.
for it?
I thought that I'm pretty sure there was only one level to pledge at. There wasn't anything more.
That's weird.
That's strange. Why do both?
Well, I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the standee art is fantastic and it's full color, so maybe people just want to have the full artwork and color from the get-go, whereas the minis are just totally grey. But
realistically, if they have the artwork and stuff of those characters already, how much does it cost to print them as a standee sheet?
Yeah, another punch board.
Like it's
maybe it was a stretch goal.
The bank.
Possibly. Oh, actually, I think you might be right. It might have been a stretch goal to have a standees for everything. Now that I recall that. But I'll be using it as reference for when I paint all those minis at some point.
Cool. I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what you do with these minis. Having seen your other work, all the Nemesis stuff is great, but that sort of comic style,
it'll be quite different.
Style.
Yeah, it'll be quite
different to what you do. You do more realistic looking.
Yeah, so I do. Cool. I do quite more realistic sort of painting. I mean. I painted a lot of Warhammer back in the day, so it was always very grim, dark, that sort of stuff. And definitely I've done that with Kingdom Death Monster, and I tend to lean towards something that's somewhat more real rather than cartoony. So it's going to be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it.
Just on that, I was going to say, Ian, do you paint minis at all?
No, I don't. I've thought about it. At time is again, I don't have time for it. Yeah. I mean, I used to when I was a kid. I used to play Warhammer 40k as well.
Yep.
The little tiny epic scale ones.
What was your faction, Ian?
Just whatever, honestly. Space Marines and Eldar mostly.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, whatever.
I was a Tyranid player.
Right. Yeah. I was never particularly good at it. I'd like to try again, though. I would like to try it. But I just don't have the time.
Yeah, there's honestly some fantastic products out now. So Games Workshop have contrast paints, and there's another company called Army Painter which have the speed paints now, where you just spray paint it white and just hit the areas you want with those colors, and it just looks decent. It looks really pretty good, and there's not a lot of effort or time involved.
I think for me it would be, if I was going to do it, I'd more like specifically buy one miniature that I really loved and spend a long time on that miniature.
I would love to do that.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't like pick a board game that I have that has
like Zombicide with 100 zombies.
No. I just don't think I'd enjoy that. Like the sort of what's it, like a manufacturing line, type of approach.
I definitely agree with you there, because I've started with games where when I've recently picked up painting again, I painted Unsettled, which has 4 astronauts and Luna. It's just 5 minis and really made them nice. And then I jumped to Cosmic Frog, which just has 6 frogs. That's it. So I've done games with small amounts of minis. I've done Nemesis now, which obviously has a lot. But I would love to. I'd love to pick up models, as you said, that are sort of 1 or 2 and just make them look really epic. So, Anyway,
nice.
That's TownsfolK Tussle. I've loved it.
Sounds so good.
Yeah, this looks really, really good. Ian, have you got anything you wanted to highlight and tell the folks about?
I've been playing War of the Ring recently.
Oh yes,
I play War of the Ring with my daughter, which is one of the best 2-player games, thematic games. I think it's my favorite thematic game.
Right. Okay.
Of all time, I think.
What puts it head and shoulders above all the other 2-player games?
I don't know if it's the best 2-player game, but certainly thematic, like big thematic dice rolling game. For me, it's light years ahead of anything else.
Wow.
Like I love Lord of the Rings, and it's so good at conveying that theme. I don't know. Has anyone played War of the Ring?
No, but I'd really love to.
No.
We went to play it on. Is that the one I was going to play, Jules? Or is
no,
the other
that's
one?
Journey Through Middle-earth. That's a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't get on too well with that one. But War of the Ring, it's like everything makes sense in it in relation to the theme, and that's like my daughter's like 13 years old, and it's a big heavy game, and she doesn't play big heavy games. Like most of the games we play are like Llama and Silver and Gold and stuff like that. But I read the books to them when they were smaller, and we've watched all the movies and stuff like that. So she's familiar with the game, and that's enough to give her a framework where it's actually very intuitive to understand what's going on and what everything means. It's fantastic. It kind of tells an alternate version. What if these people went there, and what if these people went there? But it really makes you realize that Tolkien, when he made his map and he made his story and the motivations and difficulties, really thought about those things. They really make sense because they're the same things you have in the game. There's no manufactured tension or goals. There's not like a card that says now you need to go and defend Helm's Deep or anything like that. You just need to do it because of the way the world works and because of your ultimate goals. And it's like you find yourself making those same decisions that they make in the film, in the books. Where it's like, well, do we go through Moria, right? Do we take the shortcut? We know it's really dangerous, but we could do it. We could probably make it, maybe. That's why Watch talking to me. Or do we go down by Isengard? All these different things. It's just such a clever design. It's got a great combat system, lots of dice rolling, which will sometimes feel very unfair. But you roll so many dice, it works itself out.
It balances out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's if you have any affinity for Lord of the Rings, you have to play it.
I will someday. I love the Lord of the Rings, and I'm assuming you have sort of the normal version, but I've seen that collector's edition with all the miniatures like pre-painted, and I think it comes in a wooden box.
It's like $3,000, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's that ridiculous thing.
Next level.
It's great. I will say the miniatures are terrible quality. They're real bad, and the paint job on those collector's editions is also not very good. I have, and this kind of goes against what I was saying before, but I've often thought about painting just that set. It's the only game I've ever seriously considered painting.
Yeah, okay.
I won't, because it would take forever. I might paint the bases, though, because it kind of helps with figuring out what the unit types are. I might do that. That might be as far as
the paint slips onto the mini, you just finish it off.
Yeah. It's an amazing game. Strongly recommended.
Yeah. Would love to play that one day.
Yeah, it's actually on my long-term oath for this year as well, because one of my very early oaths at the start of this year was to play every game in the BGG top 10, as it was at the start of the year. And
wow.
Is it in the
top 10, yeah?
It was in 9 or 10, it was.
At the time you said it.
Wow.
At the time, yeah.
Nice.
Look, I'll be quick with my sizzle, because I know we've got a lot to talk about with our new bracket. I know you guys want to go head to head on it, but I've had the opportunity to play Skull Canyon Ski Fest, a new one by Pandasaurus Games, and this one's a lot of fun. Like I like my light games, and this is the game itself is kind of, it's in two parts almost, and so it's a bit Ticket to Ride and a bit parks as well. So what it is, it's basically a set collection game. So the board is a mountain. It's Skull Mountain, or Skull Canyon, I should say. And you collect cards of the cards. There's 3 different colored cards, and then there's also 5 different styles of mountain or ski run. So there's moguls, there's the off-piste, there's slalom, and 2 others. I can't remember what it is. And you start with about, I think, 7 cards, depending on. Yeah, you start with 7 cards, and everyone gets 2 actions. And you can either take a ski lift up the mountain. You can collect cards from the market in a similar style to Ticket to Ride, where you can take 2 that are visible or take 2 that are unseen from the deck. And there's a wild there as well, which is a Yeti. And if you take the wild, then you don't get to take a second one, just like with the multicolored car in Ticket to Ride. And the third one is you can ski down one of the runs. And there's 3 different kinds of run. There's a basic, which is green. There's the advanced one, which is blue, and then there's a black run, which is the expert level. And you just play 2 cards of the same color or 2 cards of the same style. To do the easy, you do 4 of the same and 7 of the same to do the black run. Now there are also these little markers on they've been randomized across the mountain with a particular run style. So it might be slalom, it might be the off-piste, it might be the moguls, for instance. And so if you do play, let's say you take a particular advanced track, a black run, and you play 7, but there are also 7 of that same style that is on that particular that is on that marker, you get double the amount of fame points. So you get just victory points for doing any of the ski runs. There's also a separate track with each of the individual runs. And so if you're the first person to do that run, you get to place your little marker and you claim that run.
Okay.
And then you also get fame points. Now, fame points you can spend later on at the ski shop to get gear. And the gear allows you to do all sorts of different things, including something as simple as just buy a lift ticket so that you can go up the lift without actually using an action. Or you might get ski poles in which you can go up one of the runs as if it was a ski ticket, because you've got poles to actually ski
walk up. Yeah,
exactly, up a run instead of having to just use the tickets. Now, this once the skiing section, it goes into, there's 4 sessions. It starts off in the morning, and then it goes to sort of late morning, afternoon, and evening. And then if you happen to finish your run or finish a run at the bottom of the mountain at the evening phase, you get a bonus fame as well. So that's really kind of cool. And then at the end of those 4 sessions, whoever else is on the mountain, you just have to come down the mountain.
Okay.
But the order in which you get down the mountain is important, because then the second section is the ski, was it the après ski, which is basically when you're hitting the hot tub, you're buying more gear, you're getting into the schnapps, all that sort of stuff. And so the order in which you get down the mountain is important, because then you get to go first, or there's an order of taking up these spots, kind of like the track in parks. Whereas if you're the first person there, the next person can't go there. They have to go to the one after you.
Yeah.
So there's different abilities within there. There's the hot tub, there's happy hour, there's a ski swap, and this is a way for you to prepare for the next day. And so the game itself is played over 3 days. So you might be able to get more gear to help you on your next run. You can get lift tickets. You can just get more fame if you wanted to. And finally, when you gear up for the next day, when you set the game up, you actually determine what the weather's going to be like. And so if it's going to be normal, if it's going to be a sunny day, or if it's going to be an icy day, everyone starts at the bottom of the mountain. But if it's going to be a snowy day, it means there's been a good dump of snow, and so you can actually start halfway up the mountain if you want to. And of course, if you're first, you get to choose where you go first before anyone else. So there's some really good mechanics there. The one that I really enjoy is I mentioned that the Yeti is a wild. Well, there's actually a physical Yeti on the mountain as well. And so if you play the Yeti as one of your wilds, you get to pick up that Yeti and move it and block one of the
other
runs.
Spots.
Nice.
One of the runs. So now there's something like a bit of a take that element as well. Similarly, with the with the track, with the different kinds of runs, when you claim a run, someone else can claim that run after you and take it away from you, if you like, if they play an additional card when they take that run. So if you do one of the easy runs, you're just playing 2 cards at the same, and you claim that run and you run it. If someone wants to take it from you, they have to play 3, and then if someone else wants to claim it back, they have to do 4. And so after the 3 days, there's a lot of the victory points and the end scoring comes from those runs. And so whoever claimed the most amount of easy runs, whoever claimed the most amount of advanced runs, whoever claimed the most amount of expert runs, and then whoever claimed the most runs overall get additional victory points. And that's where it sort of sorts itself out in the wash. So the first day that you're doing all your skiing, you're kind of just getting the hang of things. By the second day, you might be starting to use your gear. You might be trying to steal a few runs that other people have taken. And by the third day, it starts to get a bit cutthroat, because you're going up the mountain as high as you can, and you're looking to see who has skied what run, and you try and work out how you can actually take that from them, so that you can get the bonus VPs at the end. And the last little take thatty bit that I really enjoy is if you use one Yeti card as a wild, you move the Yeti. If you use 2 or more, you create an avalanche. And that forces everyone one spot down the mountain. So you can use that to your advantage. If you knew that you were going to do 1 run, but you didn't have enough cards to do the second run, but then you did have to do the third one,
bump yourself.
Exactly. So you can give yourself a bump, but also shaft everyone else, because they might be getting themselves in a position to steal a run from you, and then you just create an avalanche, and then everyone just slides down one.
That's cool.
It's a harmless sort of fun and easy to learn, easy to play game, but it has those sort of touchstones that everyone's already familiar with. A bit of Ticket to Ride, a little bit of sort of that really really simple sort of worker placement, where if someone gets there before you, you can't take that spot anymore. There's a little bit of take that as well. So look, we really enjoyed it. I'm actually taking it to the upcoming game days and to teach it as well. So it's Skull Canyon Ski Fest. Highly recommend.
Pandasaurus, right?
Pandasaurus. Yeah, we were lucky enough they actually sent us a copy to check out, and and it's a perfect little game for my wife and I to play. And Jack had to go as well. He actually won, but I was kind of shepherding him through that, going, I think you should just play this.
Just push your mum off there.
That's the thing, because he was actually going before Jen. So I'm like, maybe you should play this one and go there, and then put the Yeti over there, because I think that's where Mummy wants to go. Good idea. So she didn't really appreciate that, but it was almost like I was playing two people. But look, yeah. But he understood how to do it, and it's just set collection, simple colours, and so it was really good. Yeah, so that was my sizzle.
Nice.
All right, so from there we might jump to our bracket, settle last week's, and launch the next one.
Buying games is a serious thing, and if you're serious about games, then you'll check out 2D6 Games. Dan, Dave, and Joe will go above and beyond to make sure your gaming needs are all sorted. They have a great range, and they also provide free shipping Australia-wide. They do loads of work within the gaming community. They help us out immensely with our Brisbane game days, and they've even helped us pull off some great pranks against other podcast members. Head over to 2d6games.com.au and check them out today.
So if you'll recall, our bracket last week, sponsored, of course, by Game Toppers. You can check out their Game Toppers at gametoppersllc.com. And we hear from Berkey that there is another Kickstarter on those way as well, which is really exciting. Our bracket last week was Quacks of Quedlinburg versus A Feast for Odin. So we know how it went, because we popped it in the running sheet. But Ian, do you want to hazard a guess? You're actually you're quite active in our community, which we really appreciate. So how do you think this one went? Quacks of Quedlinburg versus A Feast for Odin.
I hope A Feast for Odin won. I'm gathering that it didn't.
Yeah,
I have a feeling it didn't.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah, I really like Quacks as well. It's great. But I really, really like A Feast for Odin.
And it was a great showing on Instagram, Facebook, and our Discord channel. It was 134 to 108. Quacks of Quedlinburg got over the line by 26 points. So
that's not hugely surprising, though.
It's
way more approachable. And
it is, and it was in our bracket for the first time as well, and it got really far. I think Yeah, we've talked about it so many times, but I think it really has set itself as, you know, a classic of the board game genre now.
Yeah.
And it's just so much fun. It
And
really
it kind of came out around the time that we kicked off this podcast.
Yeah.
I think it had been out maybe a year. It was quite fresh, hitting retail, and so I think for a lot of us, a lot of people who joined the community, it was their gateway game. It was the go-to for having 5 or 6 people over and that kind of style push your luck game.
It was one of Finn's like proper game, like a proper game that he played, like, and he could do it himself. Like he would go to the shop, he'd pick out the tokens, put it in the bag, do it all himself.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one of those games. Like we've talked about it before. Like, what games do we think in 10 years' time would still get played today? And I think that's one of them. I think that Quacks of Quedlinburg would still be played in 10 years' time as a bag builder, fun family game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things about Quacks is, and this is the way it was taught to me, is you can absolutely 100% teach the game by playing it.
Yes.
Because first round, you draw from your bag and you've no control over what's in there. So you can literally just say, draw a chit from your bag, and then you tell them how to play. So you can play the whole first round without any explanation of what to do. And then by the time you do, it's been a while, but by the time you do the sort of in between rounds bit with the rat's tails and all that sort of stuff, then it's just like, and now we get to put these things in our bag.
Yep.
What do you want? And then
exactly.
that's it. You've taught the game.
Yep, exactly.
Feast for Odin is real good, though.
It is. Yeah. A lot of people love it.
I love it.
Some people do love it.
All right, so we're going to kick off a new one, and this one's going to be great. I'm looking forward to what you guys, because I don't have a dog in the fight.
The doozy.
Brass Birmingham versus Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy.
You know that the last time I was on, Brass Birmingham was also in the bracket.
I remember that. I remember that.
Brass Birmingham mascot.
I think it was Mansions of Madness.
It was, and I think Brass lost to that.
That's ridiculous.
It was so. I was so mad. I was so mad. Oh
yeah.
That might happen again here. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
You're right. I've just found that it was episode 44 for those who want to go back and have a listen to it, which also means that I know what your oath was, but I'm not going to tell you.
I know.
All right, so we'll get cracking with this first. Jules, I think you're firmly. Are you in the Brass Birmingham corner or in the Eclipse one?
Look, if someone put a gun to my head and I had to vote, I would probably go Brass, but I also really like Eclipse, and yeah. So I'm happy to bat for Eclipse, but
what gets in that case, what gets Brass over the line for you then?
Oh, man, I am a person that really likes heavy conflict games. I'm not much of a Euro player. I'll play anything, but I like heavy conflict, and for me, Brass is the ultimate interactive Euro game. It is so interactive. Everything you will do on that board has consequences for every player. Where you get your coal from, you have to take it if it's the nearest source. People can take the iron, and the networks that are built together have massive consequences.
Stealing people's beer.
Yeah, stealing people's beer. If you're putting down buildings, that's more connection points for people to score off. It's just, you can't step anywhere in that game without potentially setting someone else up for success. And I think
that's why I don't like it.
But also you can do things to totally make someone's thing crumble down, like stealing the beer.
I know.
They might be loading up for selling a heap of goods, and you're like, I'm taking those 2 beer and selling things. Like, it's just that's why I love it so much. It's brilliant. I'm pretty sure it's in my top 10 games. Yeah, but yeah, it's really good. But
it's awesome. Like I love Brass. I actually, another thing as well, it's just so small and insignificant, but I love is that the double-sided board, the day and the night. Like,
yeah, that's a nice touch.
I just think that's cool. Like, that's a nice little touch. Always play on the night, never play on the day.
Same.
Like, Yeah, there you go, the dark side. But like, I'm the same as you, Jules. Like the interactivity of what happens and the way the income and stuff works in that game, I really love.
It is very clever.
Part. Like, it's really, really clever, and even just, I know it was a Kickstarter originally, but like the Roxley chips and stuff that you can get with it, like that is all like lovely. Yeah, like all of that, it's just lush. And I love the art style. I love that real dark Birmingham and dark England Industrial Revolution style look, and it just looks like it screams character of the times. It reminds me of like Peaky Blinders and things like that without having anything to do with it at all. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I love the game. I think it's really, really good. It plays really good with 2, plays really good with 4. Like it has that bit where it cuts that board in half almost, and you only play with the lower half. And yeah, it's a bit of a shocker when you do play it with 4 though, because it's a completely different game, and then you're like, you have to be really mindful of stuff that I was never mindful of before. Like,
I love it at 4.
Game with 4.
Yeah, love it at 4.
Game. Yeah, I think Brass to me is like top 5 game designs ever. It's so good. Like every single piece of that game is just exactly what it needs to be.
How's that rule book as well?
Every turn, every turn is super tense. Like it's not like a lot of games have, you're set up, I'll do a thing and I'll figure it out later. I'll get an extra worker. A lot of games have that sort of acclimatizing period at the start of the game, and then it gets tight at the end. Brass is tight from the start.
Yes.
Like it's great.
I can see you've got both Brass Birmingham and Lancashire deluxe editions behind you.
Yes, I do.
He just put those there. He knew.
Also,
I'll be defending Brass again tonight, everyone.
The Roxley's art direction is fantastic in that game.
Yes,
it's amazing.
But
do you have any thoughts you want to share on Eclipse, Ian?
I was going to say Brass doesn't have spaceship. It doesn't have spaceships. One of the things
I think Jules is going to save you, Ian.
I think one of the things I just absolutely love about Eclipse is just the ability to customize and load out your own ships the way you want it.
The best part of the game. Yeah,
100% it is. Yeah. It is the absolute best part of the game.
Well, it's a backhanded compliment. I thought it was. It is very clever. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. You can just go with those fast little ships and just load them out with missiles, and they're just on a suicide mission. Or you can build those huge dreadnoughts and just have it be an absolute beast and just weather the storm for fights. It's very, very clever. Yes, there is a lot of luck in the dice rolling, and there's luck in terms of places that you explore and things like that. It didn't. The first time I played the game, another player was getting hammered by that bad luck in terms of exploration.
Yeah, that's me.
That was yeah. I won my first game, but I felt bad for that other player. I was like, it should be that you can
mitigate.
Yeah, or like there should be some sort of mitigation there. And I've often thought about just house ruling that particular part.
Yeah.
But I've played it more since, and I haven't seen that happen again. I think it was probably an anomaly, but look, I don't think it's a perfect game design by any stretch, but I've had a lot of fun every time I've played it, and just discovering those crazy techs, and it has a very tight economy system. I think that's very clever, of having to manage that economy of having the cubes out and on colonies on different planets. You feel sort of restricted in a way, and it plays way quicker than Twilight Imperium, even though people argue it's very, very different. I much prefer Eclipse to Twilight, but just so good. It's such a good game.
From the very little knowledge and play I have, I am still pretty sure that you were just being, you just gave me the pity vote and was like, I won't attack you because if I attack you, I'll decimate you.
I won't lie.
You'll be out of the game.
No one wants to see you cry.
Look, the game has a player elimination if people want to go that way. You can be wiped off the board.
It's intense.
I tend to find it plays similar to Twilight Imperium, where people sort of explore and build up, and then there's a rush towards the last few rounds of a lot of combat. I want to play it where I just go into combat from the get-go and see what happens and be way more aggressive and see how that game feels.
Like StarCraft 2 style.
Yeah, just
like,
rush.
Go.
Circling rush.
yeah, exactly. That's it.
But yeah, but people can prepare for that. They can explore and make sure the wormholes don't line up. And it's like, you can't get to me right now.
Yeah.
But I want to explore that game more. I recently picked up a copy second hand quite cheap. And I haven't I'm yet to table that copy, but I think there's a lot of more exploration I can do in it. I've played it a handful of times now, and I want to see more of it. But I love that ship customizing. It is so clever and so good.
Yeah, I had a very disappointing experience with Eclipse. I only played it once.
Okay.
And as it was explained to me, I got super excited because it's great, right? The design's great. There's so many really interesting concepts in it. And then I was that player who got screwed with the exploration.
Yeah,
and
you keep pulling ancients.
Now I don't get to do any of this fun stuff that I should be able to do.
Yeah.
And also, the game's not short. It wasn't hugely long, but it's also not a short game.
No.
Right, to have. And I think that's a pretty fundamental flaw in the design.
Yeah.
I think, and I understand it doesn't happen very often, but the fact that it can happen, I'm genuinely surprised that development didn't get rid of that.
Yeah.
If that wasn't possible, my estimation of this game would go way up.
Yeah.
But as it was, I was like, the fact that this can still happen is not good.
I'm that player every time because I do not know conflict games at all. I'm not a strategist. Like, I can barely speak English. Do you know what I mean? I just I don't get it. I don't play those type of games. So if I get thrown into one with someone like Jules and someone like who knows how to do this stuff, I am just not even competing for anything. There's just 0 point. Whereas in TI, for example, there are factions like the Turtles and that where you can just make a defensive wall and kind of do that kind of move forward slowly, which, I didn't feel at any point in, say, TI, I was out of the game, dead in the water. I was always competitive, which I don't like that in Eclipse, where it's essentially, like Jules said, he could do a Zerg rush from StarCraft and just go 4 little fighters and just try and decimate me and cripple my economy in the first round. I wouldn't know what to do. Well, I'm out. I'm done. Thanks for that. And then they would continue to play a 4-hour game while I sat there.
Well, that's the thing. If people went aggressive hard from the start, maybe it'd be a 2-hour game. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Well, if you want to make sure that your favourite goes through to the next round, Brass Birmingham or Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy, make sure you hit up our socials. You can vote on Instagram, Facebook, Discord. You can vote on all 3 if you want. And we'll check back in next week and see who goes through to, that'll be going through to round 4. So we're getting to the pointy end of this Bracket Battle 2.0, which is exciting.
Every vote counts.
Yeah. And if you want to support the podcast, you can always go to patreon.com/boardgamebarbecue as well. Sign up to donate and get access to exclusive podcast episodes that we record just for our Patreons. Adrian, I listened to the special Marvel Apocalypse one that you and Connor did.
You did
just recently. I listened to it on the way back on the way back from the airport the other night. It was good. I really, really enjoyed it.
It's like the blind leading the blind.
Oh, look, if you guys do Mr. Sinister, I'm calling dibs. I want in on that episode. I'm just saying.
Definitely.
But I remember, if you don't want to donate, there's plenty of other ways you can support the show without donating. You can always go to Apple Podcasts, leave a star rating and a review for us, or Spotify has a new star system review as well. So that only takes a few seconds, but of course it's absolutely great for us with all the algorithms and stuff that the podcasts use. You can also get involved in the Board Game Barbecue community by joining Facebook, following us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And of course, there's also the Discord community where there's always games and conversations going on. So get involved, support the show. And all the links are in the show notes. I actually did something different yesterday for the Facebook community. So you know how last year we were doing the Saturday silliness, and then I kind of replaced that with the community grill. Yesterday I asked people to just share a photo of something that makes them happy, and not one person showed a photo of anything board game related. It was all kids, family, pets.
That's great.
Did you like
holidays? Yours was an empty freeway, wasn't it? There was no
it was like no traffic. I like no traffic. What can I say? I like no traffic.
That was actually the point of why we switched it up this year and did the community grill, because we had such a great response to the episode we did where we grilled each other and asked personal questions. So we thought we would put it onto the community and get them. So we've been asking things like, what was the first concert you ever attended? What was the first book you ever read? What was the last book you read? And people are having those sort of, oh, me too kind of moments amongst each other. We're going, yeah, I saw them live in Sydney and da-da-da-da. And I remember some, there was one I did where we asked some words of wisdom that people have been given or something like that. So yeah, that's just something that we're doing. We're just putting it back onto the community and grilling you guys. And just, if you want to share some of those sorts of things, I just thought it was really interesting that everyone's happy place, even though we're all here as part of this board gaming hobby, everyone's happy place is still friends, family, and holidays and vacations. And I think Mitch put sport as well, but I think mine was sport related too. So that's just
I have to say as well, like I saw Paul Grogan put Cornish ice cream, and I have not had Cornish ice cream since I was like 7 years old, and they make it with clotted cream.
Oh wow,
and it is lush.
That sounds like it shouldn't be a thing.
It's amazing. It's phenomenal. And I was like, I wonder if you can get that out here somewhere. So I'm now going to hunt down some Cornish ice cream in Brisbane.
Nice. All right, let's round out the show, guys, and let's talk about oaths now. Ian, have you had to think about what your oath might have been last time?
I'm trying to remember. I cannot remember. Sorry.
You, my friend, swore an oath to play Endangered.
Oh, great! I played that.
Hey,
oath fulfilled.
Wow. Yeah, a long time ago. Endangered's really good. It's a little, not little, but it's a cooperative game where you're trying to save endangered species. It's kind of scenario based. You've got different animals that you're trying to save, and that changes up how the game works. And it's dice placement and cards. It's got a really cool mechanism where you actually put cards from your hand out onto the board, and they become action spaces that you can take.
Oh, cool.
You're also trying to lobby influential people to change laws and stuff like that. I think I played it 2 or 3 times. Yeah,
great.
It's really good. Yeah,
nice.
Excellent. Well, you know what we're going to ask next, don't you?
Oh, another one.
Oh, yeah.
Another one. Not another one.
Oh, man. What if
hang on? We can come back to it. We can come back to
a circle round.
Yeah. Jules, how'd you go with your oath?
Okay, so my oath was to play TownsfolK Tussle, which I've done, and my ongoing one to paint the Nemesis characters. I'm so close to finishing them. I've got 1.5 to do, and I'm going to blame Adrian for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was about to fess up and say I'll take the blame for that, because Jules is painting my Kingdom Death minis in between and is sending them back to Brisbane this week. So
Adrian sent me a message saying my next boss we're doing is the Butcher. I'm like, oh damn, I haven't even assembled it yet. So I assembled and painted it in one day.
I was going to use a Rubik's Cube in his replacement just for a laugh. Just this big Rubik's Cube moving around the table, hacking everybody up as a replacement. But no, thanks very much. And also, like I've said it before, but huge thanks, Jules. Really appreciate that. They look so cool, so much better than what I could do. So I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
So my paint job got put on hold to do Adrian's. So I'm hoping to get that done this week when I find some spare time. I'm back at work, but hopefully I'll find some spare time to finish 1.5 minis. But that's where things are at for me. In terms of a new oath, I am going to do something pretty exciting. So we have our Melbourne game day coming up. And because I'm very close to finishing painting Nemesis, what I'd love to do is run a teach of Nemesis Lockdown with my full painted set.
Nice.
That's very cool.
I have never played it. I have skimmed the rule book, so I'm going to have to learn it. If someone wants to sign up to that teach when it goes live that knows the game and help me with that, that'd be cool. But I'd love to give people the experience of playing with a full painted Nemesis set and be fully immersed, and that's how I wanted to play it for my first time. So I, Jules Watson, swear that I will have a fully painted Nemesis set to teach and play on the Melbourne Board Game Barbecue Day.
I might have to cancel my teacher so I can crash that one. I think there's going to be a lot of photos taken at that table.
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, your minis are outstanding. Adrian, how'd you go with your oath?
Mine was to play 1862 with Death, which is on the heavier end of the 18xx game spectrum. And as I spoke to Death about it after the podcast, he basically was like, no, we're not doing that. He's like, you're crazy. Because basically the reason why I want to play 1862 is because it's set in East Anglia. It's where I'm from.
Yeah.
I know all the villages, every little town, every little part of that map. I've been to all these places. I know the buildings and I know some of the history. So I was really excited about it. But I actually went to Death and we played 1860. So we didn't play 1862 because my only play of an 18xx game has been Chesapeake. Yeah. So we played 1862 and it's quite funny. We sat down and played it with the exact same group. It was me, Dimmy, Def, and Ben. And me and Ben had only ever played Chesapeake. And about an hour and a half in, I was like, I can't really see much of a difference between these two. I really feel like after one play of each is probably not going to be a sufficient amount of information to say I like X over Y.
Right.
I don't see the differences. And then 4.5 hours in, I was like, I like this one more. I definitely like this one more. This is so good. I was absolutely loving it. Phenomenal game.
So when did the game finish? How many hours?
I think it was 6.5.
Oh my gosh.
6.5 was the playtime. And it was dark outside. And then it was light. It was like normal daytime. Then it was dark. And I was like, oh, wow, that happened quick. Like, I didn't even see the sun go down. It's dark outside. And it was great. Like, I loved it. And without like having a massive, like a 20-minute rant about the whole thing, it was really interesting because what happens, the National Rail starts to acquire the private companies, basically, and it nationalizes everything.
Right.
And the way that works is towards the end of the game, when it gets triggered, the companies that have the least income start to get acquired by the National Rail Services, gobbled up. And as they get gobbled up, it kind of intensifies the game because you see companies dropping off and getting no income. And it was about, I could see the game had a little bit to go, but not a lot, maybe half an hour. And I was like, man, like, MJ messaged me and said, how's the game going? Having fun? I said, I'm about to do something really stupid. But it might pay off. That was what she said. So that's nothing new.
Oh, okay.
And I was like,
cool. I'm about to do something really stupid. I'll be home soon.
Yeah. Nah. And then what I did was I actually, I basically, at the end of the game, when it gets that close, you pay dividends out to your shareholders, right? And I had 6 shares of this particular company, which was paying out a decent amount of money, not terribly. And then what I did was, rather than paying out dividends to all the shareholders, giving a little bit of money to Def, Dimmy, and Ben,
you embezzled
it and ran to myself. I tried to do that, but it wouldn't let me. But I started to keep the money in the train company. Like I started the train company to keep it.
Yeah.
And I was already running a train. It was able to do 6 stations plus some other little bits. But I kept it, and then I kept it again, and I kept it again, and even Demi was like,
"What are you doing?
You're not that. You need to have the money by the end of the game, not the train company." And then in the last round, I actually bought a second train. I was running 2 trains. So I was the only person at the end that had a diesel train and a 6 train running. And my income on that last round went through the roof. And I was the first highest income. I was the last company to get acquired by the government, which sent me into the lead. And I won by over £1,000.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, it's working. And Def was like, when it's going good, because Def goes, nice. I'm doing stuff. Look at me go. It was really fun. And it was intense. I had sweats by the end because I was freaking out. I was counting the money because everything's getting acquired. And I was like, this is supposed to be boring. This is not supposed to be this exciting. It intensified and companies were getting swallowed up. And then I was like, I kept getting money. I was like, I might win this. It's going to be really close. And yeah, I won it at the end. It was really fun. Really enjoyed it. Absolutely want to just play it again. 100%. So
wow.
Massive thanks to Def for teaching it. And them guys for hosting, because it was a long day. Awesome. Which led into Anachrony after that, which I hadn't played before in my life, but that was really good as well.
We'll
but that's
save for another day. Yeah.
Just a palate cleanser.
But my new oath will be to learn, teach, and play Yak, which is a small family game. Has some of my favorite minis in it. They're little tiny yaks. They look so cool and cute, and it's just something different, like a building thing. You kind of collecting resources and building different structures on your player board. I don't know much about it other than that, but me and Finn are going to hang out and play that next weekend. So yeah,
beautiful.
Yak.
My oaths were one was to play Tiny Epic Pirates, which was when I backed it Kickstarter last year, and it arrived, and I sort of went, "This is great!" Put it straight on the shelf and never touched it. And so I gave that a crack finally. Now I did have the game mat as well. So when you finally set it up, it's got such nice table presence. All the little islands get set out, and for us, this is my first Tiny Epic game. So I didn't know exactly what to expect. There's so much going on in this game, not just all the components and all the ships and all the little cubes and stuff that you play, but the gameplay itself is actually, I was really surprised at how much there is. So you can, with your ships, you can search for treasure, you can trade goods, you can fight other ships, and ultimately you're trying to accrue all this gold so that you can bury treasure, and the first player to bury 3 treasures wins. But one thing I really like about the game is it has a rondel with the actions that you go around, but only the core action at the top is there, and the rest are actually just wedges that you randomize and put in. So everyone's rondel, even though it has the same actions, they're all slightly different, which is kind of like a nice touch when everyone's playing. And you have these crewmen. You start with 3 crewmen, and they're on positions on your ship. There's one on rigging, which allows you to move an additional space. There's one on cannons, which gives you an extra shot. There's one on extort, so that when you do a lap of the rondel, you get extra gold. But on your rondel, when you place your captain on one of the actions, if you want to skip one and go to, say, if you want to skip search and go straight to plunder, for instance, you have to take one of those guys off one of those actions and place it on the rondel. So now you're trying to weigh up, okay, well, I really want to keep this guy on here on cannons because I think that person's going to attack me, but I also don't want to do a search or a plunder. I want to go straight to trading goods. So I'm going to have to take this guy off extort and put him there, take that guy off the rigging and put him there. So it's a really good little sort of crew management sort of efficiency thing there, plus the movement. And there's a marketplace with the little cubes. There's 4 different kinds. There's gunpowder, coffee, sugar, and rum. And they're in their 5, 4, 3, 2 in terms of value, but whatever you actually trade, then they actually go to the bottom to the 2, and everything shifts up. So it's an evolving sort of little economy, if you like, in terms of. So yeah, there's so many different little moving parts, which I only played it solo, and I found it difficult. I found it really daunting. This is one of the games where I really lost my mojo with, because by the time I set it all out, and I watched the Rodney's playthrough, and then I watched the other things, and I sat down to play it and just went, I don't think I've got this in me tonight. This is just so overwhelming. Once I finally did get the hang of it, the AI, it probably takes about as much for you to do your turn as it does to do the AI's turn. But it wasn't overly complicated. There's just a lot of bits and pieces, because with the pirate that you choose, they have certain abilities, and so if you choose the cannon, for instance, then your pirate will have an additional special ability for a cannon, and then when you get crew, they will have special abilities too. So you might just use the search tool to actually travel to and then search this sort of series of islands for plunder. But because you've got Willie over here in your crew, then when you do a search, you also get to do plunder, and so there's a lot of it's a little bit admin-y when you roll the dice to see what the opposing pirate does, and there might be 2 or 3 different things you have to sort of check this and check that and check this and check that before it's your turn again. So that at the start of the game was a bit like, oh, okay, this is sort of a bit arduous. But once you get the hang of it, it does actually start to flow a lot quicker, which I was relieved at.
Right.
But even just playing it solo, it was still a little bit over an hour to play. And did I lose or do we? No, I lost. I lost 2 treasures to 3. but there's a lot of replayability and variability. There's 2 cards that form the AI, and one is an adjective and one is the pirate itself. So you might have the ruthless Carmen Rouge, and then you might have the aggressive Carmen Rouge, and then you might have the aggressives, So while I think it's 4 and 4, but there's essentially 16 different things you can mix up and play against. So look, I have put it back on the shelf, but I will be getting out again, so I think I'm comfortable enough to maybe teach Jen how to play it, because I'd be interested to see how it does actually play against another person as opposed to. And it has sort of got me wondering, and I was looking at some top 10s the other day of all the Tiny Epic series, because I know that Tiny Epic Pirates kind of rates somewhere in the middle of all of the series, so I wouldn't mind
Dungeons top? Is Dungeons the most popular?
I think
Dungeons is up there. Galaxies is number 1 in quite a few people's top 10s.
It's amazing that they're all like the small little box, and they're all so vastly different as a game. Like they're just so cool.
And even just for someone like Scott Arms, who does Heroes of
Land, Air, and Sea.
Yeah. And then he can suddenly condense all those sorts of things into a small box, and even further into sort of button shy games as well. It's incredible.
Well, actually, when I played Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea not too long ago with Mike, he was like, "Oh, that mechanics from Tiny Epic, blah blah blah." It's Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea has like all the mechanics from the Tiny Epic games involved in it.
That's fascinating.
Nice.
Yeah. The one I have never played a Tiny Epic game. I've played Heroes of Land, Air, and Sea. But one that's caught my eyes, Tiny Epic mechs. You actually have like mech suits that you put on the meeples, and they look really cool.
Yeah. Well, I think it's Dungeons where you have the meeples, and you can actually put
weapons.
Put weapons in their hands, even though they're tiny little meeples still.
That's cool.
That's really, really clever. Now, my oath, I might be biting off more than I can chew, but it's something that I've actually wanted to do for a long time, and we were lucky enough to get a copy of Unsettled from Orange Nebula last year.
Oh, yes, Dan.
And Mike had it, and Mike played it and loved it, and he's passed it on to me, so now it's my turn. It's my turn to play Unsettled.
Nice.
So I, Dan Harris, swear by next time on the oath, I'm going to at least have a look at it, and we do have a couple of the planets here. I don't know how far I'll get into it over the duration, but I at least want to crack it open and learn the game, because I'm sick of hearing you guys all talk about it. It's my turn to find out.
Oh, so good. But you don't have the painted minis.
No, but you don't live that far away.
I was going to say, Lucky Jules lives around the corner, and he knows how to do it.
All right, now we haven't forgotten about you, Ian. What is your oath going to be?
So I've got a Stefan Feld game that I've owned for probably 5 years. I have not played. I keep forgetting that I have it, honestly. And I see it every 6 months or so and go, I must remember how to play that game. And it is the Oracle of Delphi.
Oh, right.
Which is an anomaly in his games. It's not a point salad, it's a race game. And I just have not gotten around to it. So, hopefully this will compel me to finally get it played.
Very nice.
So Ian O'Toole,
do hereby swear to play Oracle of Delphi.
That's it.
Nice. That way we can, everyone, you heard it here first. Everyone can hold you accountable. And that brings us to the end of another great show. Thanks everyone for being a part. Thanks for hanging in there to our listeners. I know we ran a bit long, but special thanks for our special guest host, Ian, for joining us on the show. It's been great having you.
Thank you for having me.
Don't leave it so long next time when you come back.
I got to play that game first.
Well, that's
He's got to have at least another 75 episodes.
Yeah. When you finally tire of Gaia Project, then maybe Oracle of Delphi we're going to look in. Yeah, it could be a while. Thanks again to our sponsors and, of course, our patrons. If it wasn't for our patrons, we definitely wouldn't be able to do this as much as we do, and we appreciate all your support. So thanks to them, thanks to Jules, thanks to Adrian.
Thank you, guys, and thanks, Ian, again.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
And may your next game be a sizzling one. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
I've got a quick fire question for you, Ian. Yeah? It didn't really come up and fit, but I wanted to ask it. One of the patrons asked, or said that you're a big horror movie fan. Is that right?
I am.
Do you have any hidden gems in the past few years in that genre?
Oh, man. Can I think of one? It's not in the past few years, but a lesser-known horror movie I really enjoyed is Pyewacket.
I haven't heard of that one.
Pyewacket.
There you go.
It's like a witchcrafty film. It's really, really good.
Cool.
Yeah, I can probably think of some more, but not right now.
Oh, good. Thanks for that. You're muted, Dan. Oh, you're muted, Dan. You're muted again, Dan.
Dan's going to have to do some editing.
Am I ever?
Oh, dear, oh dear.
It's going to be a long one tomorrow.